Okay, welcome to the Municipality of South Dundas regular council meeting with its team for Monday, January the 9th, 2023. This is our fifth meeting. Councillor Ward is joining us by Zoom tonight. So item number one, I'd like to recall this meeting to order. We're reconvening from our closed session that was called to order at 5:15. Item number two, confirmation of agenda. Are there any additions or deletions or amendments to the agenda? I have one. We will delete item 6B, the food community future delegation, and we will reschedule that. Any others? Seeing none. Disclosure of pecuniary interests and the general their nature of. Hearing or seeing none. We'll move to item number 4, adoption of minutes. Any discussion, errors, or omissions in the minutes for the regular meeting of December the 12th and the special meeting of December the 15th, 2022? Seeing none, I have a motion that the minutes of the December 12th regular meeting and the December 15th special meeting of council be adopted as circulated. Motion by Councillor Smith, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Opposed? Carried? Okay, we'll start off with item number 6, our delegation. So tonight we have Kathy Ashby here from the House of Lazarus. Thank you for coming tonight, Kathy.
Thank you so much for inviting me here tonight to share with you some of the ways that House of Lazarus helps your constituents. And I have with me tonight Reverend Mark Lewis. We have formed a new partnership, so later in the presentation we'll be discussing that as well.
Great.
So our tagline at House of Lazarus is building community and sharing hope. And that is what we do, try to do through all of our programs.
It's just the arrow.
Oh, it's here. Okay. Thank you. Arrow down. There we go. So House of Lazarus is a food bank, a social enterprise. We have outreach programs, and we do a lot of advocacy through our Linking Hands program. So currently we have 2 food banks, one in South Mountain and one in Ingleside. At our food banks, we definitely serve residents of South Dundas. In South Mountain, we have people coming from Dixon's Corners, Iroquois, and Brinston area to our food bank there. And we also have a few from Morrisburg itself. We have 2 social enterprises. Our thrift stores are in Ingleside and in Mountain. In Ingleside, we have clothing and household goods that we offer the community at great prices. And in Mountain, we have household goods, clothing, as well as furniture. Our outreach in the past few years has definitely grown. We see about 3,000 people a year through our outreach programs. So just basic, what is poverty? House of Lazarus takes the Bridges Out of Poverty definition, and that's the extent to which an individual does without resources. And we understand that it's just not monetary resources, but we look at the person as a whole. So there may be a lack of support systems, emotional, mental, or physical resources as well. We take each person who comes through the doors as they are. We meet them where they're at, and we try and help them as we can. So what does poverty look like in South Dundas? These are just a few examples of some of the situations we've come upon in the last year. So I'm just going to go through each sample and explain how we would be helping people. So 40% of our food bank clients tell us that they go whole days each month without eating. That is food banks across Eastern Ontario. We surveyed our clients, all of the food banks in the area surveyed their clients in 2019, and that's what they told us. So from that, we're trying to get as many sources of food to them as we can. So one of the programs that we offer is the Green Food Bag program. This program is an opportunity to buy fresh produce at warehouse prices. So we offer $15 and $25 bags, and we have one of the depots here in South Dundas at the Iroquois Legion on the second Wednesday of each month. We also deliver throughout South Dundas those bags when they come in. Children need food to eat over the weekends. We heard this loud and clear when we offered the Operation Backpack program to schools in the area. We're at 4 of your schools in the area, and of the 226 children weekly that we're serving, 118 come from South Dundas. The rest are from South Stormont, North Dundas, and North Grenville. In those bags you see, we put high protein, high fiber food items. We're supplying 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, and 4 healthy snacks. And we see that that program is just going to continue to grow as it has since September of this year. We do have help from the Iroquois Matilda Lions Club. They're helping us to deliver to schools on Fridays. The bags of food are put into we get the bags to the schools get the bags of food into backpacks on Friday. People are dealing with mental health and social isolation. So we have 2 drop-in centers, one of them being in Morrisburg, and at the drop-in centers we offer a hot breakfast, so another way to offer to people in need in the community a chance for free food through the week. So drop-ins are every Monday morning. There's just been a change in location, but we typically see 10 to 15 people coming out for the free breakfast, as well as to socialize, participate in different activities, anything from having agencies present how they can help. We had somebody talk about income tax and the importance of getting their income tax completed, and we've had things like free haircuts offered as well. How are we helping with the housing crisis? 0% vacancy rates in South Dundas for rental units. So we put together a Dundas County housing report in 2019, and we were fortunate enough to present it to the counties, and they actually passed a resolution based on the information. That report has all the stats pre-COVID for housing here in South Dundas. So it's on our website. I did present to the council at the time, but if you need more information about how we got those numbers, or if you'd like an update in the numbers, just give us a call. A woman living in her car on the pier. This is happening way too much, that we're finding people living in their vehicles. We do supply hope bags for the homeless, supplying essential belongings, a resource sheet, food, and shelter-related items to those in need. We're working with the OPP for this, so when they find people, they have items right on hand. They have bags in their trunk of their cars to hand out. Unfortunately, we also have larger bags that would contain sleeping bags, tarps, tent pegs, can openers, more food, more water. We don't see that this, because of the lack of affordable housing in all of SDG, and not just the counties, right? This is a national, this is happening nationally, but it's definitely here in South Dundas. So we'll continue to support people where they're at. We're fortunate we were able to get that lady a room, so she is out of her vehicle for this winter. So we're happy to do that. People having trouble paying their housing bills. A lot of people right now are finding it hard. Heat and hydro arrears, rental arrears. We're able to provide money to pay those through funding, private donor funding with the SD&G United Way. We really want to keep people housed where they're at. So by paying these bills, we can keep them where they're at when they get those N4s. If we can get the rental arrears up to date. We also, before we spend money from the United Way, we make sure they're accessing any other government funding around. But we are the last resort and are able to kick in money there. We also have been able to use that money for first and last month's rent. So if you're homeless and you're on Ontario Works receiving, well, if you're homeless, you're receiving just over $300 a month because they've pulled back your shelter allowance, and ODSP the same. They usually make just over $1,100 a month, but they'll pull back the $400 shelter allowance if you're homeless, right? So it doesn't give people a chance to save any money to get ahead, to have first and last month's rent if they're fortunate enough to find somewhere that they can actually afford. So we have been able to use that money from United Way to pay and to get over 25 people from homeless status into having a place to go. And once they have a place to go, then we work with them to get more government funding to keep supporting them through, because on those incomes, times are desperate. So we've been promised another $120,000 from United Way between now and up to the end of March 2024, and that we are overseeing that program for the counties. So Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry, the Agape Center in Cornwall is overseeing Cornwall itself. People needing wood to heat their houses over the winter months. So we work with Community Food Share and BMR in Winchester to provide condensed wood logs, a month's supply for people that are heating their homes. And we've delivered right before Christmas, and definitely to people in Brinston, Dixon's Corners, and Iroquois area. Families are in need of affordable housing options. So House of Lazarus purchased a building in Williamsburg, actually, and we're able to create 2 affordable rental units for families in Dundas County, the first 2 affordable units in Dundas County for families. We have a partnership with Cornwall Housing. So the tenants that we have there, they pay 30% of their income. They're both working families. They pay 30% of their income towards housing, and City of Cornwall tops it up to fair market value. And in 2020, for South Dundas, for a 3-bedroom, that was $1,575 a month. So we are looking, besides the affordable rents, we also provide a mentorship program for these families, and as well a trust fund is set up for them to help them through emergencies, or if they go on to home ownership, they can pull that money along. A single mother who needs reliable transportation to take her child to CHEO on a regular basis. Our Handyman Hero program provides materials or parts for urgent housing and vehicles repairs, and local tradespeople donate their time. So right now we have several garages that we work with. The closest to this area is in Hexton, and JM Automotive. So this mother, we were able to get her urgent car repairs fixed up, so she was able to start driving her child to CHEO again. But there was ongoing work that needed to be done on that car, and that garage has stepped up, and they're giving 75% off the price that typically those repairs would cost. So a woman living in a shack that has no running water and limited heat. And again, this is happening right now in this area. I talked to her right before Christmas, but it's happening all over in shacks or in camping trailers. People are using those spaces, unfortunately, because they have no other options to live throughout the winter. So the last 2 years have been brutal for us, working with people living in their vehicles and living in these substandard housing conditions. And there's honestly nowhere to go. So when they call us, it's not like we have, some magic houses that we can just produce. We don't. Those homeless people that I said we, took from homelessness and were able to pay their first and last month's rent, that took 6 to 9 months each for them to find places. So it's not nothing is quick about this. What we noticed is that, what we know is that these people need some support. And so we've partnered with the Anglican Parish of South Dundas to open a community hub and warming center at the rectory here. We're just opening it during the day at this point. So, because what we heard from people living in their vehicles is that at night they're not getting a good night's sleep, right? It's not fun. And people, knock on windows. They're just apprehensive to close their eyes. So this way they can come in, they'll have access to hot shower, hot meals, they'll have access to laundry facilities are there, and beds are set up. So if during the day, from 8:30 to 4, Monday to Friday, this is a way to get them out of their vehicle, get them cleaned up, get their clothes cleaned up, and hopefully start to make a difference. Did you want to add anything?
Well, I just think churches, I would think in this area, because I know it's affected us, have had to deal with many more social problems than we ever thought we would deal with, and especially over the last 2 years. I've only been in my parish now for a year, and the amount of money that we've probably spent over this last year has been over $3,000, with people just knocking on the door and saying, I need this paid for, I need this paid for, I need this paid for. Oftentimes it's electric bills. We've paid first month rent. We've paid hotels for people to stay because they had no place to go. So we're just hoping that this pilot project, this partnership, will end up becoming a more full-time community hub where we'll be offering services, not just housing, but services that they can't access because they have no transportation sometimes to get to Cornwall. Everything seems to be located in Cornwall, and there's no opportunity for many people in our area to get to Cornwall. So by bringing in some of the partners that we have the Roy McMurtry Legal Clinic that's going to come in once a week and offer legal advice to people that are in need of that. United Way has agreed to come in at least once a month, and then other times as needed with LEAP payments. The OPP will be bringing probably people to us that they find, because they'd end up with people just wandering around and they don't know what to do with them, and most of the time they have to drive them to Cornwall. So this might be an opportunity for them to come to us, get a bath, get some warmth. It's not a good scenario in that we don't have places for them to stay, but we can provide something for them in a very short term kind of thing. I'm hoping that this will grow into something much bigger on the property that's there. The rectory is available right now because I don't live in the rectory. I have a house in Iroquois, and so it just seemed useless to have a home that size that can house people that were not using it. So we're really happy to be partnering with House of Lazarus and these other community services to be able to provide for those in our community.
We also have Naomi's Family Resource Center, who has said that they would come and do half day or full day as needed counseling sessions with people as well here. So really starting that community hub, putting it out to more agencies. We're doing some PR this week around that to try and bring more services here to South Dundas. Like Mark mentioned, if you're not living in your vehicle, you may not have a vehicle, and transportation is a barrier for sure. So these are just some of the other programs we have. I mean, we really, House of Lazarus goes with the needs that are presented. A lot of our programs, like Handyman Heroes, came from, you know, a tradesperson walking through the doors and saying, look, I can give back to the community. How can we make this work? And we've made it work. And they've done, you know, different tradespeople at different times have stepped up and done remarkable things. So really letting you know what we're doing now, but also saying if there's a need that you hear of and know of and that we're not meeting, let us know. If you'd like to be partners with us to do something, let us know. We really, our next focus will be on youth programs, because what we're hearing from Canadian Mental Health Association with the people that are working with that organization here in Dundas County, it's our 16 to 22-year-olds that are in a lot of trouble right now with their mental health, and the suicide rates are way up, so we need to start addressing that. So that's next on our horizons. We also have interesting opportunities with a contractor actually who would like to get into the affordable housing market. So, you know, as a municipality, if you have land, if you have just want to have a talk and see, you know, what we can do to support each other, to support the people in your community, please feel free to reach out. All of our programs, there's a lot of them. They're all listed on our website, hol.community. We are a small business for sure. We have about 18 full-time people that work for us, and then part-times as well through our social enterprise and outreach programs. So, and then well over 100 volunteers, because to keep all of these programs going, it takes a community. And I have to say, our community in Dundas County has really stepped up. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Kathy and Pastor Mark, for coming tonight. Situation continues to grow, you know, as you've made reference in your presentation. It is not visible to all of us. So thank you for sharing that, for what you do for residents and folks in our community. It's really important. I was at the event on December the 9th, the Community Food Bank Share event, and it was nice to see the groups working together and continue to put out the information. And, you know, coming out of the holiday season where people are charitable and volunteer and do a lot of work, we got to remember that this program is 365 days of the year. So for our residents out there, please continue to volunteer and donate where we can to help these types of organizations who are really important. Any comments or questions from our team? Councillor Smith?
I just have a comment. So thank you for both of you for coming tonight. It wasn't that long ago, back when we were campaigning, one of the things that I heard of that, and quite frankly, it didn't cross my mind that it was a large issue, was homelessness. And it seemed like if people weren't talking to me about cutting too many trees down, they were talking about homelessness. And I'll be honest, all of us sitting up here, we're pretty fortunate that we're not looking for our next meal, but there are a lot of people that are. And it really opened my eyes that it was as big an issue as it is. So.
Yeah, and really has come to the forefront these last couple of years. In the last 12 months, in Dundas County as a whole, we've helped 15 homeless people and 22 that were at high risk of becoming homeless. So those are large numbers for a rural community. And that's just our organization helping in different ways where we could. So it's really, when I got into this role 6 years ago, I didn't expect that either. But this has really become a main focus for us now.
I think homelessness presents itself in many ways. And we don't see the people sleeping in the plaza and places like that, but we are aware from a church standpoint of somebody that sleeps in the Bank of Montreal, I think during the evening, comes in pretty late, gets a few hours of sleep because it's a warm spot. And but we see and we know of a number of what we consider couch surfers that move from home to home to home without wearing out their welcome, but still have no place to live. And I think we want to present opportunities for them to find some help and in a safe environment. Most people don't want to leave their community. And some of the people that we're helping right now, the only place they can find housing is other places. So we're separating them from their known communities, and that doesn't work well for their mental health or any other thing. So it's, it's vitally important that we begin to address this and look at this and figure out ways to help people.
My apologies because I do not see Councillor Ward on my screen at this moment. Councillor Ward, any comments?
Yeah, just to echo your points and Councillor Smith's points, Mayor, I really appreciate everything House of Lazarus does. The volunteers in our community are outstanding. The amount of money and time they dedicate towards helping those in need in our community is amazing, and I hope moving forward, South Dundas can help promote your events that you use to raise money, and also hopefully if we get our volunteer database off the ground, perhaps we can help you recruit volunteers in the future too. So again, thank you for your presentation. Thank you for everything you do for our community.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Yep.
Okay, we will move on to item 6C, Planning Development and Bill 23 Overview by Peter Young as part of our SDG County Planning Group. So welcome tonight, Peter.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me. I'll start with, we're just going to give a quick overview further to some of the orientation that's been going on of some of the applications you'll be seeing actually in the near future, the next few months. You'll be getting more of these types of applications. So just a quick outline of the presentation. Council may be aware from the county orientation, the joint orientation that was done, Ontario's planning system, so that's usually zoning, what you're allowed to do in a property, how you can sell properties to other people. You have the Planning Act, which is the overall rules on what the applications are, what the how you're allowed to regulate land use, how you're not allowed to, what powers do municipalities have. You have the provincial policy statement, which is the province's document that applies to all municipalities. Things like you can't sever vacant residential strip development in farmland, or that you have to maximize the use of your services and use them efficiently, things like that. And that applies province-wide to every municipality, including South Dundas. And decisions that council is making or advice that we at the county as your planners are providing has to be consistent with those policies. We have in SDNG, there's one official plan that covers all 6 municipalities, and that kind of lays out what are the goals and objectives for the next 20 years. When we get a new development application, how does council take into account feedback from the public, from agencies? This is kind of there's also a map in the official plans, so it'll show what areas are in your town boundaries, what areas are employment, what areas are agricultural, what areas maybe some rural, you can have some severances. And this is just an example map just in Mooresburg. You have blue is kind of employment, industrial parks, pink is residential, yellow is kind of more mixed use, commercial, some more higher density. So official plan amendments, you'll see that both at the local level and potentially at the county level as well. Sometimes there's broader changes that are done. Let's say we want to change the rules we just did one for cannabis production across all of SDNG. So we'll have one meeting for the whole county, and your county council representatives will be representing South Dundas there. If it's for a specific site, let's say you want to change a whole area from a residential to a commercial area, then we have the public meeting here in South Dundas, and then we get the position of the municipality first before county council makes a decision. So there's same kind of type of things. It's also affected by different provincial rules. So you'll see definitely a few of these. The one you'll see in particular is the growth study official plan amendments. Some areas might be agricultural or rural now that would be changing to residential or employment as the municipality grows. So that'll be early in your term. You'll see some of these official plan amendments. Zoning is probably the next one you'll see at one of your next council meetings. So zoning is what you're allowed to do on the property. So each zone will have a list of what uses are allowed, how far you have to be from the property lines, and then in this case, this is showing R is residential, I is institutional, M is industrial. So there's different zones depending on the uses. And so there's two type of main applications when someone wants to apply for something that doesn't quite meet the rules. Zoning amendment goes to council. There's a public meeting. The notice is 400 feet instead of only 200 feet. And it can be appealed by neighbors, by the applicant, if they don't like the decision. Minor variance is decided by your committee of adjustment. It's more like, I want to build a shed. The bylaw says I have to be 4 feet from the property. I want to build 3 feet from the property. Well, the Planning Act says that you're required to consult with the neighbors, have a hearing. Usually people don't care about 1 foot for a shed, but let's say it was closer to the water or a higher building that might block someone's sunlight or something like that, then they might have some concerns. One of the new changes actually in our next report for Bill 23 is you used to be able to appeal those minor variances. So we had one, a kennel recently, let's reduce the setback from a kennel to residential. So it used to be the neighbor didn't like the decision, they can appeal. Now they can no longer appeal. So lots of kind of decisions that affect people's day-to-day lives and affect how they can develop their property. The zoning ones are ones that are in council's purview. Minor variance is your committee of adjustment, but if you disagree with the committee of adjustment decision, council has the ability to appeal that and try and stop it if that's what council would like. Sometimes there's applications multiple at the county level or at the local municipality. Usually we try and have one public meeting, coordinate everything and work together with the South Dundas team and with county council and our clerk's department. Subdivision, we kind of talked at the orientation about, so that's dividing land into different parcels, or a severance. A consent is more of a usually just one parcel. I want to sever off a lot for my kids. That's the one we get quite a bit. Or someone wants to do an easement or a right of way. I want, I don't have a legal access. I want a right of way to the back of the property so I can mow the grass or something like that. So South Dundas in particular, its county is the approval authority for the land division, but South Dundas, we get comments before we at the county make a decision. We send it to all the departments. We also send it to all the neighbors as well. So we get all the local municipal departments, neighbors. So if it's drainage, the drainage departments might say, we need to look at the drainage assessment. Taxes, they might say the finance department might say taxes need to be paid before the severance can be completed, things like that. We rarely refuse one, but that's because we work with all our departments and our municipalities to make sure that people don't spend their money and get turned down. We're relatively sure that it's a good application before he even makes it to giving the check. Site plan control. So this is one that you haven't seen, and now based on the province's decision, no longer go to council. So those used to be, let's say you want to do an apartment building or a commercial property, industrial property. It has the layout of the building where it's the fire routes are, landscaping. That used to always go to council, the design of the building. Now the province has said that has to be delegated to staff. So that's through the CAO's department has the final say based on the recommendation from planning and all the other departments that are, the water and sewer, all the departments are part of that. And subdivision, so when you're trying to manage development, make sure it's reduce the impact on neighborhoods. You have some really key tools. You have your subdivision agreement that says how much, how big is the development, what are the roads and water, sewer that you have to build in order to make this be able to build homes on the lots. You have your lot grading process. So every lot to make sure that the water doesn't run off and pool into other people's properties. You have your development standards and guidelines and your securities. South Dundas is well ahead of the curve, has all these things in place. As of maybe 5 years ago or something, a lot of these documents were all brought forward. So South Dundas is fortunate to have the right tools to make sure development's done properly. We talked about last part law control. Whenever you want to split a semi into half, that'll go to council as well. And just finally, our 2023 projects. So we have the growth management study. We've got our projections, and we'll get our next report in January, and we'll be coming to council later on this spring for that. The previous council, we had looked at reviewing the backyard chickens, whether that should be permitted in the municipality. So we'll be starting the consultation process based on that resolution. We'll be updating South Dundas' zoning bylaw to meet the official plan and to make sure it allows affordable housing projects to go forward. Keeping the subdivision manual up to date, updating for Bill 23, which is the report in your package, the new legislation, and floodplain mapping of the South Branch of the South Nation River, and forest cover mapping. So lots of projects and lots that are going to specifically help South Dundas and make sure there's good development and make sure that there's the natural environment, natural hazards are all looked at, and it's easier for people to develop. So we look forward to working with council on all these projects quite a bit, and we look forward to coming back to you with the results of these projects. And just quickly, the other report is for the new legislation, Bill 23. So the province has made many changes for development charges, which is not that's not something that South Dundas has, but they've changed some of the processes. At County Council decided that although the province said we didn't necessarily need to have public meetings for these subdivisions, SDNG, we would like to still have them and have that part of the process. So we'll continue to have that public input and engagement. One of the main changes is the role of South Nation and the conservation authorities in the processes. So there's certain things that now those conservation authorities are not allowed to do. So we'll be meeting with all the municipalities in the next few weeks and the conservation authorities to figure out, we thought we'd have a transition, but they made it, they passed a regulation over Christmas to say January 1st it applies. So we'll be coming back to council if there's any fee or cost implications. Ideally, anything would be covered by fees or a shared cost with all the municipalities, but we'll have to get back to you with cost implications. Unfortunately, there was no transition period, and we're still getting applications. So in the meantime, if we're not able to, we'll probably just have a sub-consultant, and we'll come back to council with the final results on that. So lots going on, and happy to take any questions.
Cool. Well, thank you. Thank you, Peter. Excellent information as we're learning all these details of what the past laws were and obviously the new bill. Certainly interesting for us to keep up to speed. Any questions or comments from the team? Deputy Mayor St. Pierre.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor Broad. Peter, delegated authority. Do we have authority to pull delegate authority from staff to review site plans?
No.
No. So it's strictly with.
Now it could be circulated still to council if council wishes, but the province has said as of I think it was July 1st of last year that it had to be delegated to an officer of the corporation.
Okay. And on the Bill 23 and the fees for rezoning and the fees for site plans and the approval timelines, I understand that still may be in question. Has the provincial government delayed the refund of application fees if we don't meet the certain target timeframes or timelines for rezoning and or site plan applications?
Yes, so the province, there were certain timelines that the province said that all developments had to meet, but there were no penalties if you didn't meet them. So they changed the law. It was going to be as of January 1st of this year. Correct. That if we didn't make a decision on time, we'd have to refund 50% of the fee. Now the province has said they're going to be introducing legislation in February to move that date to July 1st, 2023.
Okay, perfect.
South Dundas generally does not have a problem with that, with meeting those timelines. It's more for larger cities, I think, but South Dundas, I don't think we'll have a problem with that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I can see if Danielle's. Oh, there you go.
Anybody else for any comments, questions? Councillor Ward? Nope.
Not at this time, Mayor.
Councillor Smith?
I did have a question. Regarding the floodplain mapping for the branch, is there anything currently? Is it starting from scratch or is it just updating?
That's a great question. There's some areas that are mapped. It's about 30 to 40 years old. So based on some of the complaints that South Nation did, they actually did a review of all the floodplain areas within their watershed, and they recommended that the county, through our floodplain mapping program, put this as one of the top priorities. So there's some areas that are about 30, 40 years old for the north part. South of the more, I think, kind of Haynesville, that area, but to the west and south of it, there's areas with no floodplain mapping at all. So actually doing this would save residents, would save sizing proper infrastructure. So we feel that'll save a lot of money, and we're able to get a grant from the federal government as well to help pay. So part of that process will be a consultation process with farmers and residents and anyone that's affected by the mapping. So it won't be, okay, South Nation did the mapping and now you're in the floodplain. We'll reach out to any neighbors, any residents that are affected, and invite all of council to those open houses as well. So you'll be seeing that part might not be until 2024, but you'll be getting regular updates on that project.
Okay, final comment. Forest cover mapping and tree canopy continues to be a little bit of a hot topic in social media in our area, as we have a couple moose now sighted throughout the town, the village. So be interesting for us, for Deputy Mayor St. Pierre and I, to work on that cover mapping, as well as anything we may look at. So we'll look for advice and help with the county as well on that piece.
And we'll give council a comparison of previous years and what the targets are that are recommended.
Great.
And see how South Dundas is doing compared to that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming tonight, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to action requests. So item 7A, recurring services. So Director of Transportation Jeff Hyman is here tonight. Jeff, could you just, in a couple of sentences, just give us, since this is our first time, we're going to make this motion, just what the recommendation is on the recurring services?
So what this tender is about is that the municipality occasionally requires hired equipment to help with our daily operations. And when I say requires daily or hired equipment, if our equipment is busy or our men are out plowing for winter time, for example, then we will outsource. We'll figure out what we need, and we'll make some phone calls. So that's the whole idea of this. There's no monetary value coming out of our pockets until we pick up the phone to get the hired services in. You will notice on the spreadsheet that I provided, the only item that is not highlighted yellow is the crawler type excavator, which would be a shovel. Because that would be depending on what size of a shovel excavator we would need at that time. So I couldn't identify the lowest bid, because that lowest bid might not apply if we need a large size excavator. But other than that, the yellow does indicate low bid, which would be the first contractor called if they were needed.
Excellent.
I can answer any other questions that you have.
Yeah. Any questions for the director? So I have a motion that the Council of Municipality of South Dundas accept report TS 2023-01 to approve the quotation submissions for equipment rentals, concrete repairs, asphalt repairs, FOB granular, and water and sewer break repair crew as attached for the 2023-2024 Have someone make the motion. Councillor Smith, seconder. Councillor Vino, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jeff. Item 7B, Committees of Council Handbook. So as follow-up from our previous council meeting, we've worked on the Committees of Council Handbook, which is included in the package that outlines all of the details of the Committee of Council, including some of the feedback we received. We've updated items as well as creating templates for agendas and meeting minutes and requests and so on. So, Clerk Drennan, anything to add on the creation or updating of the
No,
document?
Mayor, I think you've covered everything. The Committee of Council Handbook, I think, will be a very effective tool for all of our committees. It really lays out kind of how the process is to work. And I think on top of that, once the appointments are made at the end of January, I think with some training with the committee chairs and all the committee members, I think it will be a seamless process.
Cool. And this is, of course, separate from the terms of reference
That's
that we're going to be approving. Look at some tonight and some at the end of the month as we previously communicated. So this is on the handbook. Any questions or comments for myself or Clerk Drennan? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. When I read this, it's very thorough. I think it gives a really good guideline for any committee member who wants to be part of the committee. I was a little worried it was a little bit much for somebody just coming on board and wanting to read this, going, what am I getting myself into? But I think you just take it that, look, it's a guideline. It's to help with the process. It's to help understand what we're kind of expecting. I think this handbook is going to be valuable for any committee and any committee moving forward.
Excellent. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I have a motion that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas endorse the Committees of Council Handbook and authorize staff to undertake training with each respective committee upon ratification of council and the citizen membership appointments. Motion by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, under consent agenda, 9A, South Nation Conservation Levy. We have the interim tax levy that was brought forward by the South Nation. Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. I will back myself up. So we will go to 8A, bylaws. So under borrowing, and we'll get to the South Nation Conservation Levy.
All right, thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This is a fairly standard housekeeping item that we do at the start of every year. Why do we do it? It's in case we need to borrow money in between now and whenever we get our taxes. Our tax date is March 31st, and that is kind of our long season between collecting revenue. I look to our CEO. Have we had to borrow in between this time in the past decade and a bit?
15 years, touch wood, we have not been having to use this at all, but it's there as a safety measure.
So it allows us to, if we are facing a cash flow a moment, we can go to the bank quite quickly to shore that up. The number 8 million is based on 25% of your education and your county rates, and then 25% of our expected expenses from 2022, as well as our net borrowing for 2022. So it is, as I said, a kind of a housekeeping item, and that's how it's derived, but I'm glad to answer any questions should you have any.
Any questions or comments? I have a motion that bylaw 2023-01, being a bylaw to borrow money to meet until taxes are collected, current expenditures of the corporation for the year, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed. Motioner, Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 8B, interim tax levy.
All right, thank you, and again, through you, Mr. Mayor. Another housekeeping item, you'll see this at the start of every year. Why do we do this instead of just having a final tax rate come before you is because we may not have all the information, and we do need to tax and send out the bills. We get our information from the counties, and those meetings are, I believe, in the middle of February. By the time they get their bylaws passed, we would have already printed our tax bills, so we use last year's rate. It is 50% of the money that the township has billed from last year, and yeah, aside from the county's education also needs to give us the information. We have to have our budget and have everything prepared. So it allows us to tax before we have our final rate, and that's the why, and we do this pretty much every year. So any questions, glad to answer.
Any questions or comments? I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-02, being a bylaw to provide an interim tax levy for 2023, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed. I have a mover for the motion. Councillor Vino, seconder. Councillor Ward. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Now we can move to 9A, South Nation Conservation Levy. So in your package, we received a levy, what the assessment would be, but $5.79 per $100,000 estimate. And that's standard through what the South Nation Conservation. Anything to add, Treasurer?
And through you, Mr. Mayor, only that last year we budgeted about $89,000 and it came in at $86,000. So it's a little bit more than what the actual was, but budgeting wise, it's the exact same thing. So it doesn't really affect, it's net neutral on the tax side for your 2023 budget.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, I have a motion that all the items listed on our consent agenda be adopted as presented. Motioner, Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Very good. Very good. Okay. Board and committees. So first time we actually have some committee reports. So Deputy St. Pierre and I, as councillors of SCNG, were at the first council meeting on December the 19th, and we covered, well, in my list here, there's like about 15, 16 items. So I'm going to briefly highlight, I'll highlight 5 or 6, Deputy, and if you want to add any comments, please do so, and then I'll add 4 or 5 more at the end, just keep them separated so we have a chance to comment on them. So we did have under delegations and some key information sharing, so presentations we received. Commander Mark Hemrick came and talked about the OPP detachment and their mental health unit, really key component to the improving of the calls when it comes to mental health items, and they were looking for more budget items and information moving forward to keep us to support that program. We had a presentation from the St. Lawrence River Institute. Dr. Jeff Riddle and Dr. Brian Hickey came and talked about what's happening from a river level standpoint and all the things that's affected by that, and they continue to drive forward and work on those items. We touched base on some flood mapping, as Peter had just mentioned in his report. We had some four great updates on economical development and tourism. They've done a lot of campaigns with within SDNG, Meet the Counties, TV commercials. They had the free house or the house acquisition that they're gonna finish, as well as we're gonna see some commercials with a resident and a business owner in South Dundas. I won't share. Won't spoil what you will see some commercials on Bell Media Global through the internet, YouTube, etc. So there's exciting things happening, economic and development tourism, and they see their social media improvement. Tourism is up, so they were quite excited in what they were sharing, which led into the historic tour update as well. Lots of good information on that. We had an update on the SDNG library branches on what was happening in those areas. And then we did have a small presentation on the funding risk with some of the bridges and large culverts, which are all major expenditures when you think about bridges. So we did have an update on it. On those specific 7 items, Deputy Mayor, would you like to add anything?
No, just on the kind of promotional materials that they have for SDNG. It was quite neat because they were showing us, we're kind of on the weather network If you click on there, you could see some of our promotional materials. Sometimes if you watch a YouTube video, sometimes you get that 15-second, 30-second slot that you can't turn off. Well, we're one of the reasons why you can't turn that off. And they got some good promotional. CTV's been helping with promotional materials. And like Mayor Broad said, it was quite neat seeing a couple of the draft videos of one specific local business in SD&G or in South Dundas. And it's quite neat. So they're doing, in my opinion, the short sections that I've seen, I think we're doing a pretty wonderful job of promoting SD&G, and we do get a lot of promotion from in South Dundas as well. Just on the OPP detachment, if I could just add what they're asking for is every year or most years they were getting funding through the ministry to support the mental health program, and this year they have not received that financing funding assistance, so they are leaning on the counties to assist. In principle, we've all agreed that we would assist them financially, but when it comes to budget, we'll have to figure out what the conditions are and what that looks like. But it is a program, I think, I'm certainly in favor of that as well. It's a good program. So yeah, that's about it for now.
Yeah, and then lots of action items that we also worked on. We had a 4-year resurfacing plan from the Transportation Department. So that was to approve the plan. When we actually go in, bid on the work and execute the work, that's during budget time. So Ben DeHaan and the group presented just what their plan would be, and that's been circulated. The Morrisburg Leader actually picked up quite a bit of information on what roads we would be looking at resurfacing over the 4 years. So that was in the plan. SD&G is going to assume a new county road, a short road in Long Sault, as they're developing a logistical road for some development they're doing. We did ask the question on what dictates us assuming a road at the county level versus a municipal level, and the size of the road, if we're going to use it for emergency detour, truck traffic, or all the pieces of that information. So that made sense to us. Coming up next summer, and we're going to do social media and more on that, there's going to be a bunch of work between in Cardinal on Highway number 2. So our emergency detour route is going to go north up to County Road 1 and County Road 18. So when there is a closure on the 401, they can't use County Road 2, so we would potentially see traffic to the north the residents would normally not see. So the transportation group, we were going to do a good media splash and let people know that's going to be happening when that number 2 construction happens. At the South Nation River Conservation Authority, so we will be meeting next month picking our member, but at North Dundas, they've elected a non-council member to be on that, and it was with great joy that we elected Bill Smurl to be that representative for North Dundas. So that had to come to the county, so we did that. We also had a presentation on findings from a busy intersection, Highway 43 and number 7, which is as you're exiting south out of Chesterville. It has an increase of accidents, and they did quite a detailed study on what the next steps should be to eliminate the risks there, as they've seen an increase. And they've been doing a lot of things in that intersection, and we continue, and we've got letters on this intersection as well for things to do. So I know we had conversations at the last meeting and some follow-ups that they were going to execute on that meeting, and we'll see where it goes from there. Particularly if there's more data driving, if there's further accidents, et cetera, after the changes we're going to make. Adding a street light at County Road 30 and Road 22, that was of concern. That's in North Stormont. And then we also renewed our occupational health insurance.
Glengarry, I think.
Glengarry, North Glengarry, thank you. And one of the more bigger items that are longer discussion items was the 2022 cost of living adjustment. So in the meeting, we had a proposal of 4 different options to change the way that CPI was going to be calculated for the non-unionized employees. So there was the standard, which was the current CPI amount, and or a recommended blending amount, a set amount, or a system where if the a 1 to 3 min max. The increase will be 1%. If the CABI is above 3%, it will be 3%. So that was passed in that council meeting to change that bylaw for the non-unionized employees at the county level. Anything to add on those topics?
No.
Okay. Very good. So that was item 10A for a county's update, and we have a meeting next Monday, the 16th. We'll be back at county meetings, so we'll have an update on the 30th. We'll move to item 10B, winter maintenance policy. So Director of Transportation Jeff Hyman is here. Key timing in the middle of winter, just to review what our maintenance plan is for the council team. Welcome, Jeff. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So in front of you is it's not a lengthy policy, but it's something that we put in place. We had a better direction on where we were going in the future and what people, residents of South Dundas and staff of South Dundas can expect when it comes to different aspects of the winter maintenance. So this policy is being shared as a continuation of the orientation and onboarding process of our new council to ensure council is made aware of the winter maintenance levels moving forward. So I've broken it into levels of service, the policy, and then I've attached our sidewalk plow routes, the road plow route, the Iroquois sidewalk plow route, Morrisburg sidewalk plow route, the Williamsburg sidewalk plow route, and our road patrol sheet. So I'll reference those as we're going through. So the policy itself, the Transportation Department will strive as reasonably practical to provide safe and passable winter road and sidewalk conditions for vehicular and pedestrian traffic within the municipality of South Dundas. The level of service requirements defined in this policy will be followed utilizing the resources provided by the municipality of South Dundas and its contractors. So the service delivery responsibilities, the Transportation Department is responsible for the winter maintenance services throughout the municipality. The following components include the design of a salt management plan, establishing proper treatment rates for roadways, design of plow and sidewalk routes, ensuring availability of resources, ensuring proper up-to-date weather forecasts, patrolling of the roads, providing information in a timely manner when asked, and always reviewing to find best practices. I've included definitions. These are for your own references. What exactly is aggregate grit? That's the product that we put on our country roads. It's a mixture of stone dust, salt, and a calcium chloride type liquid that's applied and all mixed together, and that's applied to our roadways. What exactly is the minimum maintenance standards? Representative roads based off of our road patrol sheet, and I'll refer back to that later, and our road classifications. So right now, with us being from a 0 to a 199 daily traffic, that falls us within class 4, class 5, and class 6 roads. And it's broken into column 4 being between 71 and 80 kilometers an hour, between 50 and 199 vehicles a day would put us at a class 4 road. And the only thing that does is it's different criteria when it comes to road patrolling. That's the only thing when we hit that. And based off of snow accumulation, and I'll refer to that. So the purpose, to reduce the hazards of snow covered on the ice, covered and icy road conditions to motorists, to maintain public access to all community and industrial facilities, to ensure an accessible road system for the handling of emergencies by fire, ambulance, and police services, to maintain safe, passable school bus routes, and to provide safe and passable sidewalks for pedestrians in areas designated for winter maintenance. So the objectives, obviously our objectives are to keep the roads clean. So we have what they call the minimum maintenance standards. That's set out by the province. That's kind of our fail-safe. That identifies what the minimum must happen for different criterias. There's lots of times that we exceed the minimum maintenance standards, just based off of the time that we're out on the roads, snow accumulation and whatnot. So snow accumulation for the roads, the defined level of service based off of this policy is to have center bare paved surface achieved within 16 hours after the completion of the storm. So center bear for us would be roughly 2 meters on either side of center line. That would be considered center bear, okay? For gravel roads, our defined level of service is to have snow-packed conditions achieved within 16 hours after the completion of the storm. So that means that there's going to be a layer of snow packed in place with some grit on top. That's our defined level of service for gravel roads. Keep them frozen, keep them in good shape. Ice formation on the roads. Our defined level of service is to have center bare paved surface achieved after 24 hours of the completion of the winter event. So it's prolonging the time to allow us to get out, crews out, to operate safely, to get the roads bared back up for center bare. The defined level of service for gravel roads is bare conditions, again with the packed, achieved within 24 hours after the completion. And the sidewalks is defined level of service is to reduce snow to a depth of less than 8 centimeters within 48 hours after the completion of the winter snow event to a minimum sidewalk width of 3 meters or 3.3 feet wide is our defined level of service for snow accumulation. And ice is to treat the sidewalks to improve traction within 48 hours after the completion of the event. So procedures, general. So our winter patrol, we operate from November 1st to April 30th. The standard is to monitor the weather, both current and forecasted to occur in the next 24 hours, once every shift or 3 times per calendar day. The municipality selects representative roads / sidewalks of its network, and we can refer to, I attached it as an attachment for our road patrol sheet. And it's this nice one right here. And it has identified roads that they must drive on. So when it said patrol roads, I'll give you some examples like Haddle Road from County Road 1 to Kelly. And they have to write down the time of day that they were on it as the visual. That way it corresponds with the GPS on the truck. So we have a dual tracking system in place. The represented sidewalk roads or sidewalks that are patrolled is Elizabeth Drive in Iroquois, Ottawa Street out front here in Morrisburg, and County Road 18, which is in Williamsburg. So it kind of hits the main sidewalks within our municipality. So there's also the declaration of a significant weather event, which we heard lots of people during the Christmas holidays declare a significant weather event. So that may be declared when an approaching or occurring weather event has the potential to pose a significant danger to users of municipal roads and sidewalks. A declaration of significant weather event and end of significant weather event shall be the responsibility of the Director of Transportation or designate. So with this one here, yes, that would be my call, but I would be in strict contact with the CAO and with the mayor to keep everybody informed on what's happening, which we were over the winter season, to keep everybody up to date. Snow removal. Snow removal areas consider public safety, snow storage capacities, on-street parking requirements, as well as vehicle or pedestrian volumes. Snow removal resources will be deployed once the snow plowing requirements have been met. This part here is very challenging because my snowplow operators are also our snow removal crew. And over the holidays, we did have to outsource it to bring in contractors to do the snow removal in Williamsburg to free up parking spaces because it is on-street parking in Williamsburg. Snow removal operations typically are carried out after plowing operations are completed, when on-street parking has become unsafe and vehicles are parked in the traveled portion of the roadway. So when referencing on-street parking or where the sidewalks are directly adjacent to the road, and I'll give you examples as Sir James Morris. You have road, sidewalk. So there's where we would focus on snow removal. Ontario Street, road, sidewalk is right there. There's no open ditch line or a grassy median to act as snow storage, if we may say that. So it needs to be removed to eliminate the banks to aid in the sidewalk plows, for plowing the sidewalks. Procedures for roadways, plowing operations. So plowing operations will begin as early as 4 a.m. and continue if needed until 6 p.m. No plowing operations will be conducted between 6 p.m. and 4 a.m. the next morning, except for public safety or in extreme conditions. So to touch on this one, 4 a.m. seems to be the right time to go out to start plowing snow. Although this year we seem to have been out a lot earlier, 2 a.m. There's a couple times we were out at 3 a.m. It's all based off of the weather. It's based off of what my road patrollers are seeing. That's dictating when we go out. Again, the key word is except for public safety. You get the little snows that sometimes it's nice to get out before, one, the school buses, and two, before the milk trucks start going to the farmers, because they're rolling all hours of the day. With the next line, that will salt as practical after becoming aware of that road condition. So that's my road patrollers. They're out. We'll sit down, we'll look at the weather the day before on what could be coming, and they'll set up a game plan, because they're the ones that are going out. Normally they're on the road midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and they're checking to see what's happening. Plowing operations will not exceed past 13 hours. That's as per the Highway Traffic Act. That's all that they are legally allowed to drive in a 24-hour period. Plowing operations are broken into 9 plow routes. So again, we can refer to the handout which I attached, which would be that one. That is all 9 plow routes that we have within the municipality. So we have 3 single axle plow trucks that work in the 2 villages of Morrisburg and Iroquois, and the remaining 9 tandem trucks that are out in the country doing their own plow route. So all our plows are equipped with AVLs, or GPS units, which is a vehicle identification. It shows me the location, it shows me the time, it shows me whether the front plow is up or down. We have 2 trucks, which shows if the wing, the side wing, is up or down. It shows me the application rate, whether it's on or off, and what rate they're going out at. That is all recorded based off of our GPS system. So snow accumulation for paved roads, winter maintenance consisting of plowing and salting and sanding will begin within 8 hours after the accumulation of 8 to 10 centimeters of snow. So 8 to 10 is based off of the class of roads. Class 4 roads, or class 5 roads, is 8 centimeters. Class 6 roads is 10 centimeters. We are normally out way before that happens. If it goes any longer than that, then we tend to have what they call pack on, where the tires will actually pack that snow in place, which makes it harder to get off the road, and we're using more product to get that product off the road. So grit will be applied at a rate of 200 kilograms per 2-lane kilometer as required on rural roads. This rate shall increase based off of weather conditions and road temperatures. Rates can be increased to 350 kilograms per 2-lane kilometer. Road salt will be applied, same thing, on paved roads within urban areas of Morrisburg and Iroquois at a rate of 85 kilograms per lane kilometer as required. Rates can be increased to 110, 150, and 230 based off of weather events and road temperatures. So you're going to ask me how did we determine those rates? Those rates are set based off of road temperatures. It's not based off of ambient air, it's based off of what our trucks are telling us the temperature of the road is. And when I say a 2-lane kilometer, that's a 2-lane, we salt one direction. We plow and we salt or grit on the return. So we're only applying one way. So for gravel roads, same thing. Maintenance is based off of the total centimeters, 8 to 10 centimeters. Gravel is not, when the gravel has not been completely frozen, snow accumulations less than 10 centimeters will not be plowed to protect the road surface, and then grit at a rate of 200 per lane kilometer shall be applied. Ice formation on paved roads, salt and grit applications will begin within 8 hours as practicable after becoming aware that the roadway has become icy, and will continue until the conditions are safe. So that again is based off of our road patrollers. When they're out, they determine, okay, we gotta get these guys rolling, call them in, and we start applying material. And for gravel, the same thing. We'll apply within 8 hours. We're normally quicker than that, but that's our defined level of service. So now with the minimum maintenance standards, they've now included sidewalks as a part of the roadway. So winter maintenance conditions for sidewalks, maintenance performed on sidewalks as determined by council, selections of sidewalks to be maintained for winter maintenance shall be recommended by staff based on the following. If the surface of the road wide enough to accommodate the type of road pedestrians walking our main hub that we have around the waterfront and the main main roadways here, and again, the proximity to schools. Sidewalks not maintained in winter shall be closed as provided in the minimum maintenance standards, section 16.8, subsection 1, closure of a highway. The municipality also has a bylaw, which is 2021-05, which was passed by council, which closes identified sidewalks not winter maintained from November 1st to April 30th. So again, the criteria for winter sidewalks is that they will begin as early as 4 a.m. and continue if needed until 6 p.m. No winter maintenance operations will be conducted after 6 p.m. Areas of sidewalk winter maintenance operations are described in Schedule C. So I put the attachments for our sidewalks. So everybody got a sidewalk plow route map for Iroquois, one for Morrisburg, and one for Williamsburg. Those are working documents. If this council decides to add some sidewalks, then we'll greatly add the sidewalks in as the council has decided. Again, this was, again, a working document. We can make changes as we feel fit with the sidewalk plowing. So snow accumulation, resources shall be deployed within 48 hours after the snow accumulation has ended to reduce the snow depth to a maximum of 8 centimeters. That's per the minimum maintenance standards. So you're gonna say 48 hours is a long time. If we get a significant weather event, I can't foresee people walking on the sidewalks, so they just buy a little bit of time. But we are definitely out there and we're getting things cleared up as quick as we can. Salt is applied to improve traction. And again, with ice formation on the sidewalks, it's still to help improve traction within 48 hours after becoming aware that the sidewalks have become icy and will continue as practicable until conditions are deemed safe. So the last part of it is Appendix 4 is the reporting. It explains what our road patrollers have to complete, which is based off of that road patrol sheet that I showed you earlier. Winter maintenance plow reports, pre-trip inspections, they're all done through our GPS system, which is GeoTab or GeoDrive. It's on our mobile devices. So the drivers open up an app and they're able to walk around the vehicle. They can it identifies the vehicle number, the serial number, where the pre-trip inspection is being done, the time, and any defects. There's criteria as a normal pre-trip inspection. You can identify tires, you can identify lights, you can identify your cab and chassis. They just mark it as a defect or all is good and they carry on. It says salt and grit will be calculated at the end of the shift. That's where I come into play when all our trucks are parked. Then I go on our GPS system on the computer and I can download salt and grit that was used in that shift. It gives me a running total. And then I print it off and I attach it to the road patrol sheet. I file it away. And then at the end of the month, I can do a mass printout of the grit and salt that we used for the month. I then put it in the file and that helps me determine how much product we need in the summer, spring, or fall to do the mix again. So that we're not over budgeting. We're kind of keeping the same amount year after year. And then the winter maintenance for sidewalks, our sidewalk machine is equipped with a GPS unit, which tells us the date, the driver's name, and the equipment number. So winter maintenance plows and sidewalks reports are summarized monthly and submitted for filing. I have them in my office as per November, December, January, February, so I can refer back. And then from years past, I keep them in a box in my office that if we need to reference them again with all our weather reports, I can go to them to find that information. Mailboxes and restoration. Mailboxes are the responsibility of the homeowner to maintain. The municipality will repair a mailbox if it is physically hit by our snowplow. Snow coming off the wing is unfortunate, but it's where the snow has to go. We try to decrease our speed when we're going around mailboxes, but sometimes snow does hit mailboxes and breaks them. But otherwise, this is the same policy that the counties follow, that unless the mailbox is physically hit, that it's the responsibility of the homeowner to repair and get erected back in place. Sod restoration, as you can tell, we did snow removal in town here at Christmas time. The ground was not frozen, and it looked like a bomb went off on Lakeshore Drive. We will go back in the spring, early summer, and we will restore the sod. That is something that we do. Our office admin staff downstairs, every time that they get a complaint from a resident about sod, it's logged, and then we'll go back in April and we'll pull those logs back up, and then we'll generate a plan with our staff, and we'll make it the most efficient way to go around and get restoration done for sod or interlock stones of a driveway from a water break. That's all part of restoration. We'll get all that fixed up. We fully plan on doing that. It's part of the business, and residents can feel safe knowing that it will get done in the springtime. So that is that is our level of service for the municipality. I can answer any questions which you may have at this time. And if I don't have the answer for you, I'll quickly get it, and I'll get back to you.
Well, thanks, Director. It's a big policy and a lot of details in there, and you probably didn't even hit them all. I do have a few questions. I'm sure others may have a few questions. I'll open it up to anybody that wants to have any questions or comments for Director. Now we'll start with Councillor Vino.
Mayor Broad, you mentioned that our town, like our municipal sidewalk machine has its GPS and all that, and I know we don't do all of our sidewalks ourselves. How do our third-party contractors, like, just to keep up, because we have to follow these standards of service and whatnot for our insurance purposes and all that, do they report analog, or?
No, through you, Mayor Brown. No, that's the only part of this plan where we haven't got anything in place yet is our contractors.
Okay.
I focus with municipal equipment. That should be our next game plan, is to either purchase some extra AVL equipment and install it, or in the next tender for snow removal, which comes out this year, we would then stipulate that all contracted equipment must have AVL and supply data, once upon request.
Okay. Yep.
But it is logged when the sidewalk contractors are called. It is logged,
Okay.
so that we know when they were called.
Councillor Smith?
Yes, for you, Mayor Broad. To Jeff, I just noticed on the snowplow route map here that there's the one on like the east half of Williamsburg Township. It's highlighted like on Whippoorwill Lane and Haystead Road. Now, am I right that we do plow into South Stormont? Because that's the way it is. Okay, so
Yes.
now I know why. It's because there's no place to turn around.
That's right.
Does South Stormont repay us the favor somewhere, or I was just curious?
It's more of a, this year, they've sent their grader out to grade Haystead and Whippoorwill.
Okay.
Twice now this year to scratch it, because those are both gravel roads.
Okay.
So that's kind of a
Sure.
payback
Okay.
that way.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same with, you'll notice the, up on Headline, or Irish Headline, and where it comes across into Winchester Springs. So we maintain that portion of Irish Headline Road, and the North Dundas does the Winchester Springs Road on the other side.
Okay.
They're both boundary roads, so we picked up one, they picked up the other.
Okay.
That's kind of how we work.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I just had a couple, just clarification questions, really, only, Jeff, sorry, through you, Mayor Broad. On your accumulation of 8 to 10 centimeters of snow for the paved roads, I mean, we kind of got into a little bit of a unique situation over, yeah, we do have winter storms in Canada, but the 2 or 3 days of really that hard blowing snow, there wasn't a lot of snowfall compared to the amount of blowing snow. Just walk me through how you guys would patrol, what's your trigger to get your plows out? Would you have to get them out a little bit more frequently because of blowing snow maybe is more of a hazard than just falling snow? So could you
So
walk
through
me
you,
through
Mayor
that?
Broad, so when my patrollers are out, and they see drifting, then that's a trigger that we have to get our trucks out and deployed. In the ideal world, there would only be 1 or 2 spots that are drifting. Unfortunately, it's not in the country area, so we deployed everybody.
Yeah.
Once we realized, okay, we can't get through that snowdrift, then it's time to deploy. The last snowstorm that we had, we worked our 13 hours and we went home, and we were right back in at 2 o'clock in the morning the next day to clean things up or try to clean things up, to try to get ahead of it. And my staff did an excellent job, I thought, doing that. There was times that we couldn't see and we had to pull the trucks off the road. So drifting's kind of its own animal, if sorry for the pun, but
No,
its own
understood.
animal when it comes to that.
Now, have you ever gotten a through you, Mayor Broad, if I
Yes.
could have a subsequent, have you ever gotten a situation where, you know, timelines suggest that, you know, just because in your policy you say about removal of snow between 4 a.m., roughly 4 a.m. to 6 p.m., recognizing and hearing the plow once in a while that you guys are out early. Was there any times where you do have to deploy and it's nighttime plowing?
Through you, Mayor Broad, I've been here since 2015 and we've not had to do that.
Okay. Okay.
It just seems to work that if we can stretch it out till 2 or 3 in the afternoon, then we'll come back in early and tidy things up.
Okay. And just a third question, if I may, through you, Mayor Broad, on your snow removal, and just a general question here. I recall when the snow removal might have happened last year, the year before, through Mariah Town, we've got raised curbs, 6-inch curbs, but the snow removal actually went beyond the curb into the grassed area, and I didn't know if that was an accident or if that was on purpose.
Snow removal or the snow plowing?
No, it was snow removal at the time, because it was like a 3-pass where smaller snow equipment kind of blew it out, and they kind of started at the inside of the pavement, and they kept going through and blowing it out more, and they were picking it up afterwards. And I'm it was just a general question. They went beyond the curb, so I didn't know if that was kind of.
It may be because there was a curb there, is the only thing I could say that.
They didn't
you
realize
couldn't-
the curb was there. Or,
Well, they probably knew it was, but to a certain, you can't get the truck off, and then the snowbank would occur,
Yeah.
and then the snowbank would start creeping out on the road. I'm speculating, maybe they're
Yeah,
just doing
okay.
due diligence and
no
trying to open
worries. It
up.
was just I didn't know if that was a organized chaos versus an unorganized.
Oh, it
chaos.
might have been. It might have been an organized. They might have. The patrollers might have recognized that the snowbanks were and there's no open ditch lines
Correct.
there.
Correct.
So it's a storage
Good.
concern.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate
Questions,
that.
comments, Councillor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor Rod, and thanks, Director Hyman, for the report and the overview of the policy. I think all of us really appreciate understanding how things work. I think my only question, and like I said, please excuse my ignorance if I don't understand the road legislation, but I noticed when you're looking at the SALT policy that we only apply SALT to urban roads, but you only apply SALT in those urban areas in Morrisburg and Iroquois, and Williamsburg is not in there. And then grit is applied on rural roads, and just my lack of experience, you know, rural roads have higher traffic sometimes and a higher speed. So I'm just wondering if that's a decision that council makes, or if that's a decision that's legislated, or if you could clarify for me.
So through you, Mayor Broad, Councillor Ward, so when we speak of SALT only being applied in Morrisburg and Iroquois, that is strictly because of the catch basins that are in town. That if we were to put stone dust on the streets, like Ottawa Street out here in front of the municipal office, over time, our catch basin system would fill up with stone dust, which isn't ideal. Out in the rural setting, you referenced Williamsburg. Williamsburg, there's three roads in Williamsburg, and we have to go in the spring and sweep them. Just because it's not practical for us to send our truck from Morrisburg to plow in Morrisburg, and then to turn around to go back to Williamsburg to plow the roads in Williamsburg. It's more of a logistics type of operation. That's why there's stone dust. Another reason why we use stone dust over salt is that it's cheaper. It's cheaper for us to do our winter mix of stone dust, salt, and liquid versus going with straight salt. I would love to use straight salt because that would make my life a lot easier. I wouldn't have to coordinate contractors to come in to supply the product, but that's ultimately why. It's salt in town, it's cleaner, less cleanup, and salt in the grit in the rural areas that's the way it's always been because of the open ditch lines. I know that's not the right default answer, that's the way it's always been, but that's how it is.
Right. Any others, Councillor Ward?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a few for myself and partly more clarification for residents as we're listening and we're gathering information for and we're sharing. So about questions. So 1 year experience on this particular policy. Any specific areas you'd like to change or where we could see updates to? And or you can follow up later with, if you have further thoughts, but is there something that stands out that we could take a look at today?
I'm happy with the policy.
Right?
I guess the only thing that, as I alluded to earlier, which is a work in progress or a document in progress, is the salt or the sidewalk plowing. That if there was sidewalks that this council thinks that they want to include in the plowing route, this would be the time to do it.
Okay.
That's the only one. I'm happy with the rates that we have for our vehicles. They seem to be working well. Yeah, that's
Perfect.
That's all
I didn't
have.
notice it in the presentation, and it may be under another document, but clean out of fire hydrants is also something we would do as a cleanup. Is that correct?
That is correct. This year, in the ideal world, I would have used our own staff to clean fire hydrants, but we have a backhoe that's down right now, so I did have to hire that out. We do have lots of residents in the villages that do take it upon themselves to clean hydrants, and we definitely appreciate that, but we do clean fire hydrants.
One thing I also noted during the documentation is that there will be a bare center line after the snow event and not during the snow event. So, I mean, that's particularly important for people to recognize that our policy is dictating what, we're expecting you and your crew to do and which we're executing. So during the storm, it's not the same as after the event. When we say the trucks are out, there's 9 routes, we have all 9 trucks plowing. Is that correct?
That is correct.
If we're to ask for more service, it would cost us X amount. So that being said, if we wanted to consider any greater service, it's a direct relation to cost. But maybe you could talk briefly on the challenges in hiring seasonal drivers.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. This year was very challenging. And it's not just South Dundas, it's all municipalities. It's the city of Cornwall. I can't explain why, because normally a part-time driver would be, if you were to ask what a part-time driver is a retired farmer, is a cash cropper, is somebody who works for a construction company and they lay people off. Those are normally what you would consider a part-time plow truck driver. That's not happening this year. Cash crop, they're staying at home. Construction workers, they're not shutting down. So the drivers aren't there, unfortunately. So it's been a challenge for us. We do have a full complement of staff now, which is running great. We have 9 great guys in the trucks, and we have 3 other supporting staff. Couldn't ask for better crew right now. So yes, it has been very challenging for not only us, but every other municipality that you talk to.
That's great. And final comment is, I think the record keeping is very important. So I appreciate the work that you do in the record keeping and the routes and the templates you have set up. And now that we move to more electronic, I think that's great that we can execute and know that we're meeting the policy need. Any other final questions or comments from the team? Well, thank you, Jeff. That was a big presentation and lots to go through, but appreciate it. And we're now better educated on how we're going to execute our winter policy so we can communicate and be upfront with all the residents when we get questions. So thank you. Okay, So other discussion items, number 10C, in our agenda package, we had the draft Economic and Community Development Committee terms of reference. So in our December meeting, we had agreed to combine the Economic and Community Tourism, as we referenced this then, committee. So this is the new terms of reference. So just as a briefly, the purpose of the South Dundas Economic and Community Development Committee is an advisory committee to council for purpose of providing advice for enhancing economic well-being and community and further development in the tourism sector to attract residents, businesses, tourists, training, entertainment, and amenities to the community. And then we also have our background and a long list of details. So in conjunction with the terms of reference with our committee handbook, this is how we would execute this committee, knowing that these can be altered, changed, update at any time. So this would be our first draft at the new combined committee for economic and community development. Questions or comments on this particular terms of reference? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, just one comment. I guess I'm thinking out loud here. Is 12 too many?
Oh,
You know,
so as the
As a committee,
sure,
is 12 too many?
12 may be too many.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were thinking that we had 6 and 6 at the time.
So-
We just got to add it together. So maybe the 8 to 10. Is that what you're maybe thinking?
Yeah,
or?
yeah, 8 to 10, but,
Yeah.
I'm willing to try it at 12.
Sure.
It's just,
Well-
again, just thinking out loud a little bit. Once
I
you
think
get these
that,
bigger committee members, it makes it
Sure.
harder to.
I think that the statement is the committee will comprise of up to 12.
Yeah.
So maybe when we're selecting the members, we dictate at that time, we pick 8 or 10 or whatever.
To you, Mayor Broad, I think you need to be precise. I think you need
How
to
many-
just how many we're going to have.
How many we're gonna
Yeah,
have.
so there's
Okay.
no, well, we think it's 12, but now we're going to go to 8. We're going to, and I'm okay with the 12. It's just a question
Yeah,
out
no.
loud. If we're all comfortable with 12, that's fine. Who is the deciding, if there's a motion that, if we select the 12 and they start voting on a subject, and if there's a tie, who's going to decide the tie? Because right now, the way this council is set up is if Councillor Ward and I vote on something and Councillor Vino and Smith votes on something opposite, you are the deciding vote. Who's the deciding vote if we have even players at a meeting, is the question.
So we would reference our handbook to get that answer.
And is it in the handbook? Remind me.
So
Okay.
that's
So
that's
just
something we'll have to. we
let's
would-
put it in the handbook, or let's just put it somewhere that, I don't know.
But well, I think that.
But you could always, sorry, through you,
Ooh.
Mayor Broad, you could always get an even amount if a couple people are away. It's,
I guess your point is, anytime that there's an
stalemate.
well, anyways, it would maybe it's the chairman, right? So then the chairman doesn't vote like the mayor, and then it could never be.
Could be.
Could be. Councillor Ward, question, comment?
I was just going to, thank you, Mayor Barrett. I was just going to second Deputy Mayor St. Pierre's point. I think 12 is a lot of people to have on one committee, and that was a thought that I had when I read the document. I also had some concerns with, in the section where it says, in making its appointments, council shall have regard for the qualifications and diversity of businesses' interests. And the second point down, it says members shall be known in the community as successful business people and have a well-developed business and community network. I'm not sure if that's a guideline, so through you, Mayor, to Leslie, perhaps. I just think that it might be limiting some people's interest because they might be a little bit nervous to apply if they're new to the community and they have a new business they're looking to bring. I just wanted to know if that's a guideline or if that's a requirement.
Yeah, we could take it under consideration as a guideline. I think the point was we're advertising and we're looking for strong folks on these committees. But Clerk Drennan, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Brad, I was just going to, that whole statement section actually could be removed. That was a follow through from the previous 2 terms of council. That was in the former tourism and ECDEV terms of reference. I'm not even really sure, to Councillor Ward's point, what kind of purpose that serves.
Okay.
Because that language is not in the committee appointment advertising, so it could be removed in its entirety.
So, with that being said, we could come back, these are in draft form, so we could come
That's
back with some
absolutely, yep.
changes. Yep. And make it, 8? If we wanted to have a specific number, is 8 like a number, or 10, or 9? See how, Garrity?
Mayor, I would look at, if we're looking at a number, is 9 as being an odd number, then you'd always have that, that vote would either go either defeated or approved, rather
Okay.
than having an even number. So I'd recommend, if 12 is too much, is maybe look at doing 9 as your maximum.
Sure, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. It's our document, we can change at any time as well. So we can update that 9, and let's reconsider the points Councillor Ward made on the qualifications slash whatever.
Yep.
We can have some better wording in there. Okay.
Okay.
And then the same for 10D, the South Dundas Waterfront Committee. So municipality envisions a community-oriented, vibrant waterfront experiences that are mindful of the past with a future view. Both the waterfront parks in Iroquois and Morrisburg offer a unique window to the river, genuine competitive advantage, and attract new residents and visitors to our community, as well as improve the quality of life. So both of them had previous committees, and in our discussions, we had discussed combining the overall structure of the terms of reference but keeping the site meetings in place and have a combined meeting. So trying to take the feedback we had from some of the members that they would like to have joint meetings and an overall structure, and some of the feedback we had about trying to do things united, but as well as having site specific. Any questions or comments on this terms of reference? Deputy Mayor St. Pierre.
Yeah, thank you to you, Mayor Brund, and to council and staff. I think what we should simply be doing is still having the 2 subcommittees as it sits today, and we form the parent committee out of the 2 chairs and an elective or another sitting member of the 2 subcommittees, a staff member and a council member. I don't think we need to have the parent committee member be the parent committee to be large. I think it's more to bring the 2
Yes,
subcommittees
sure.
together. So I think we should just reference that. My opinion should be just the 2 chairs with additional committee member of each subcommittee. Maybe you go to 3, I don't know, but we could discuss that. A staff member and a council member, and that forms the parent committee, and then you still have your 2 subcommittees that work together. That'd be my suggestion on.
Yeah, and we
on
could
that.
we could still just have it as one document, but as 2 or
Correct.
one document, but divide it up that as 2 committees, and that they meet and then they have a meet. And
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct.
Yeah,
And I think we should
yes, I'm
spell that out in
sure.
the terms
Let's
of reference.
be a little more specific than we are today. Yeah, no, I'm for that. That meets the intent of what I was trying to accomplish. We were trying
Yes.
to accomplish. Clerk Joanna?
What we were discovering last week when we were trying to develop this is it was becoming almost a hierarchy. It's like, who's reporting to who? Is this creating more red tape for these committee members? So that, I think, really spells it out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll take that feedback and direct back. Councillor Vino.
Just further to Deputy Mayor St. Pierre's point, and you talked about specifics, we should, I think, we would want to define who, so if it's the 2 co-chairs, and say it's 1 or 2 other committee members, we would want to define those 2, just like you guys are the members that sit at county council, just so that every time they show up to that parent committee meeting, they're more in the know. And they
As
can,
i.e., as example, it's the secretary.
Yes.
Is part of that, or a position in that
Yeah.
committee is
just define it so it's not just a random.
Right, standard. And maybe one random, but one standard or something.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yep. Yep.
Very good. Councillor Ward, any other comments? Okay. Any other comments? Okay, that's great feedback and appreciate that and thank you. And we'll go in and work on that. Next two items are open for discussion. If we want to have the discussion, Deputy Mayor St. Pierre has asked to add these to the agenda. So just on the 9E, we have, so like I discussed, and Deputy Mayor and I discussed in the SD&G County update, there was a change in the CPI calculation for staff. So I would just going to read what ours is, and if we would like to have a further discussion, we can, or we can discuss it further in budget times. So our annual structure adjustment, so this is referencing to the CPI adjustment in our policy, 3-11, personnel policy. Okay, so this is our exact policy. In order to eliminate an adverse effect on employees by fluctuations in the cost of living, the municipal salary grid will be adjusted annually by the Consumer Price Index for Ontario. The adjustment will be effective January 1st each year and based on the annual Consumer Price Index for Ontario as of December 31st of the previous year, subject to council approval. Just as data in 2021, that was at 0.7, in 2022, 0.7 again, and then if we were to look at where we would come in for 2023, it would be at 5.2, which was the number that was noted in the water budget. So that's where that information strives from. Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, comments?
Yes.
Yes.
Through you, Mayor Broad, to council and the CAO and Leslie and Tara. So I brought this forward. I want to bring this forward because it's a hot topic of discussion on a couple different fronts. As Mayor Broad said, we've been introduced with the CPI increase through our water and wastewater budget. And also, obviously, as Mayor Broad reported, we've been dealing with this on a county level as well in terms of the annual increase. And what kind of, I guess, bothers me a little bit is the notion that, I think this policy is a little open-ended, to be quite honest with you. I think saying that it's on the Consumer Price Index, the CPI, but it's also subject to a council approval. Although I believe, we do have approval authority, I just think we should be setting what the parameters are based on some fixed numbers versus just having it as a CPI, but yet when we come to budget, we discuss and debate whether or not we want to give staff a 1%, a 2%, or whatever percent increase. I think there's better formulas out there. I like the way we adopted the county council formula, and I believe, if I could stand to be corrected, but I think North Dundas also adopted it, that the annual increase for staff is based on the min and a max. Not saying that we have to do that. We could go to, as Mayor Broad said, a average of the past 3 or 4 years. Or we could just leave it the same. So before we actually get into the details, I guess I want to bring this forward to really ask the question, and I would like to do this before budget. So when we get to budget, we know, and staff has already inputted the CPI and the annual increases that staff should be recognized to get into the budget. So the very first question I have, is there an appetite to review this policy and have staff come back with a couple different options other than what is in our policy today? And if the answer is yes, good, we can debate it. And if it's no, then it's no, and we just continue on. But I think it serves. I think it's better served for staff, because I think it's fairer for staff that they know that it's here's the formula that's being calculated, and come January 1st, they will know what they're expected to get on an annual basis. With this policy here, I just find it's open-ended, and why should we be debating it, to be quite honest with you? I think there's fairer ways of determining the CPI increases and the wage increases, other than just us waiting until budget times and having a big debate about it. So that's where I'm coming from, and I would like to get an opinion if other council members wants to ask staff to come back with some other options than what is in the current policy.
Comments, questions?
I'd say I'm
Councilor
agree
Beadle.
with that. I mean, it would be beneficial to staff for their personal and household budgeting if they just had a better idea. I totally agree with that. So I'm open for discussion and for to ask staff to come back with some ideas, I guess.
Councilor Smith?
To you, Mayor Broad, my yes. So we would be talking about it would affect the increase for this year.
Through you, Mayor Broad, yes, that's the intent, is to try to get this resolved. And Councillor Smith, I don't think this is a daunting task. I think this is a very simple task. I would like to see, if we do move forward with it, I'd like to see the report come back for the next council meeting, and we decide then. So then, when we come back with our budget meetings, that decision is recognized at the budget meeting.
Okay, so here's my thought. I'm in favor of changing it for next year. I think there's a lot of people that are already expecting or thinking that they know what their increase is going to be for, or they think they know what their increase is going to be this year. And I think they're going to be very disappointed if they don't get what they're expecting. That's my personal opinion. I like the 1% to 3% range of the four options that you guys were presented at County Council. I don't think that we should start it right now. I do think that that's the way to go in the future, but I don't think that right now is the time to do it. That's my thought.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. I hear what you're saying, Councillor Smith, but I don't think, I'm not presenting this to shortchange any of our staff. I'm not presenting this and we picked a 1 to 3. It could be 1 to 4%. It might be a 4%. But my experience with budgets, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, CAO Garrity can correct me if I'm wrong, the first thing we tend to slash when we're doing budgets are the salaries, are the salary increases. And I just feel this is fairer, to be quite frank with you. I think this is fairer for staff, knowing what last year's CPI rate was. I think this is fairer for staff because at least it will give them a number. And in my opinion, it depends on what option we pick. I think it's going to be a pretty fair increase. To be quite, if we do the math, I think it would still be a pretty fair increase. I'm not suggesting it would be the 5.2, but I am suggesting it's not going to be the 0.7 or the 1.
Yeah.
You know, it would be, obviously, if we went with a 1 to 4, a 1 to 3, or a blended average, then it is higher than, you know, what previously they would have received. So I guess I was coming from it in a light that I thought it would be more fairer for them, so they know, and then they know, and to your point, Councillor, then they know what they're getting for our next term of council. In terms of the formula, they don't know exactly what they're getting, but they know what the formula basis is. So I was looking at that as well. So again, I'm okay if we want to debate it, but I think it should be implemented for 2023.
Councillor Ward, questions or comments?
So I took a look at the county council, what they were proposing for a CPI increase, and I do like the smoothing option I presented. It's what OMERS uses as well. So it takes the rolling average, which is what Deputy Mayor St. Pierre was talking about, was taking that rolling average. I'd like to take a look at that personally. I know I was in support of the 5.2% for water, and I'll be honest with council, the reason why I'm in support of it is because I want to make sure that we're retaining staff. There's a lot of competitors out there that are giving CPI increases, specifically municipalities. They might not necessarily be an SDNG, but there are larger municipalities out there that are giving the CPI increase. I would like to give staff some sort of formula. I think it's fair for them to ask that from us. I really, to the Deputy Mayor's point, I really don't want to discuss CPI increase for staff every single year. I think it should be based on a formula, and it should be, that's the end of it, and it'll just be put into the budget. But yeah, so I guess my 2 points are, I understand Councillor Smith's point, because the 5.2%, historically, the staff were getting 0.7. So the 5.2% might get us closer to where we need to be with regards to competitors, but I also understand Deputy Mayor St. Pierre's point. So I think maybe if we could just see what staff come back with, and then we can
Perfect.
Yes,
discuss
just
that
for
at that
some,
point to see what the rolling average or the 1 to 3%, whatever council wants to do. It would be.
excellent. Some of my comments are, if we did the 5.2%, it's $175,000 increase to salaries overall, which is 2.2% taxation rate. So to look at the 5.2, it's the bottom line to the budget. If we look at what our neighbors have been doing over the last few years, we are significantly behind, to Councillor Ward's point, on retention. We also have launched a org review where we're looking at all of our positions and the pays and pay equity, which we're going to have data from. So I'm supportive of us looking at a new formula, because I don't think this is also a fair formula based on the pay grid you're at. If you think about what CPI is to cover, it's to cover the price increases of essentials, gas, food, milk, right? And if you're at the lowest pay grid and you get 5.2%, you got X amount. Well, if you're at the highest pay grid, you got X times X times X amount to cover the same type of items. Correct. So I think I would also encourage staff, let's really have some good investigation into potential different formulas that we can use over our entire term, so we can set that and move forward, and knowing at the same time, our org review may set us on another path to bring a particular wage of a position into line with what our competitors are doing. So twofold. One is for a fair formula, and then the second fold is our pay org review will catch up if we're significantly behind in an area. And that, over time, of course, based on those recommendations. So I am supportive based on the details you've shared tonight, and the way the ideas are that we recommend staff come back with several options, looking at what everybody else is doing, SDNG, and then some new options as well, if that works with the team.
Works.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That's excellent. Excellent. I'm glad that was brought forward and some data shared. Okay. Item 10F, reconsideration of the Morrisburg Junior Hockey Club request to sell alcohol. So in a meeting in the fall, the Junior Hockey Club came forward with a request for an exemption to policy 9.1. So 9.1 is our Municipality of South Dundas alcohol policy that is quite large, and they're asking for a exemption to be able to sell alcohol during their sporting events, the juniors hockey team events, during their games. And the council had looked at that recommendation, and it was denied at the time. And Deputy St. Pierre has asked us to bring that back to the table for discussion and a potential motion. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, so thank you, and through you, Mayor Broad. I don't think there's any surprise that a couple of our council members have been approached unofficially by the Morrisburg Lions to see if we would at least reconsider their request. And at this time, again, all I'm basically asking is, do we want to reconsider it? Do we want to reconsider supporting a liquor license for the Junior B, Junior C games? If there's no desire, we move on. But I think since it has come to us unofficially, I think it is, I feel it is a responsibility when businesses and residents come with items to us, that we should be talking about it and addressing it and coming up with a resolution. This was turned down by, as you alluded to, Mayor Broad, this was turned down at the last council. And I watched the videotape the YouTube that went along with the decision making. And to be quite honest with you, there were some things I agreed upon with what was said, and there were some things I didn't agree with. When they talked about comparing this license to a license that was given for and they said it, the Chubbs tournament. Well, my opinion, that's not a comparison. When they talk about alcohol in dressing rooms and the men's and ladies leagues and all that, well, to me that's not a fair comparison. We're talking about an organization, a business that's requesting for a liquor license. And I understand there's logistics around it. I understand there's staff and logistics. I understand there may be some insurance logistics around it that we need to get educated on, and we should be educated on. We have a liquor license or liquor policy, I believe, which we need to get educated on. But so it's just a simple request to my fellow councillors. Is this something, since it's on the table, since I heard about it, Mayor Broad, I believe, heard about it. I believe Councillor Vino's heard about it. I don't know if Councillor Smith or Ward's been approached, but it's just a simple ask. Do we want to reconsider this letter? And if it is a yes, it's a yes. Then we can get into more fruitful discussions. And if it's a no, then it's a no. We move on. So I like to keep it simple. It's a simple question.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. Yeah, I'm supportive of the request. I was here for that request. I travel all the arenas in Eastern Ontario, and alcohol sales are at most of the events. Our neighbors to the north, the east, west, they all conduct sales within their arenas for junior hockey games. I think we should definitely, just have a discussion, and if we have questions, Director of Rec, Jansen is here. If we have questions for him, we can ask questions of him. Certainly, if what the exemption would entail was we just passed a motion that we grant the junior hockey team an exemption to 9.1 because it says in there we're not allowed to sell alcohol in the arena, and then we would have staff and the club and myself or anybody involved can help make sure we execute against the alcohol policy at the time. So, questions, concerns, comments?
No, I'll just say
Councillor Vince?
discussing it.
Yeah.
Okay, Mayor Broad, so are we debating this tonight, or are we saying that we're going to bring this to another meeting?
I'd prefer we discuss it and get our
Okay.
feelings, right? And if there's an appetite to have a motion, we can have a motion. If there's an appetite to have something come back at a future meeting, then that's what we can decide. It's ultimately our decision of the five of us on that. What's your approach that you would like to take?
Okay, so I'm going to start. I wrote a few words here.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my opinion. I'd like to start off with saying that I generally support anything minor hockey or recreation related in general, but I'm not sure about this one. The first thought that popped into my head was myself and my 8-year-old and 11-year-old sitting in the stands in the arena at a junior game and seeing two guys fighting in the stands over there and having to explain to them what's going on. Alcohol was stopped being sold in the arena, and I believe it was back in the early 2000s, and I think it was for a reason. We can argue that things have changed in 20 years. We've evolved as a people, but my thoughts is that our arena is considered a safe family environment, and I don't think we should do this. That's my thoughts.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Yeah, I mean, obviously, any municipal property, we would always consider to have safe family events and with participants. As far as, you know, if there'd be fighting stands or not, I don't think we could directly relate to the junior team selling a beer or not, whether that's directly related or not. I travel, my son plays junior hockey, and I've been involved with junior hockey previous to my son playing. I'm also, you know, involved with minor hockey. I don't think those specific events are related to an alcohol sale in the arena specifically. But your thoughts are noted for sure. I understand completely. Any other comments, questions?
No, I didn't know if Councillor Ward.
Sorry,
wanted to
Councillor
say
Ward,
something
did you like?
first.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. So I did a little bit of research on this one because, to be honest, I'm not an expert on licensing, and having similar concerns to Councillor Smith, I just kind of wanted to get educated. And it does seem that the licensing requirements for doing alcohol events is quite stringent, and the board that looks after that does take into consideration a lot of items and then assigns it a risk level. And I think it's worthwhile reconsidering, because I think like to Mayor Broad's point, every other arena in Eastern Ontario, for the most part, has licensed events. I think it's not only important for us to consider for the hockey team, but also for future events. One comment I do have in just reading Mr. Castleman's letter is that I don't think that just licensing one area of the arena is something I would consider effective. That's the only comment I had, and of course, when it comes back for consideration, perhaps staff can find if maybe there's a better area, or if we should just license the entire facility. Those were kind of my two comments, and I think we should probably look at having a policy too of just how maybe we could just update the policy, or become, as Deputy Mayor St. Pierre said, become more educated on the liquor policy. Yeah, so those are my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Twofold, and Deputy St. Pierre will probably comment on me adjusting flow, but at the same time, we also probably need to look at the alcohol policy itself, as it's could be ineffective, and or we may be doing things that are above the law. So I noted in some of the when I'm reading through all the documents that our Director Jansen has followed exactly the way the policy is written, but there's things in there that we may not need to be doing in that policy as far as what the law would call out, for example. So I would also like us, same time as we're going to educate ourselves on it, we can make any updates or changes as we feel that's appropriate at the time. So from a storm event, to see what our feelings are, is the feeling that we get more data and we look at this at a future meeting, or are we okay to have a motion for the exemption for the staff to go then work on how they can make it execute it happen, and or David Jansen is here, we could ask direct questions of him at the same time. So kind of laying three things out there, just what your thoughts are on the next step. Councillor Vino?
Through you, Mayor Broad, I guess just to the group here. So I understand your point, Councillor Smith, and I think times have changed quite a bit as well. But I've always been a proponent of doing things as long as they fall within the rules, because rules are set out there to keep everybody safe and to keep everybody in line. The liquor laws in Ontario are quite strict, and to apply for a liquor license, to maintain a liquor license, the advent of the Smart Serve program and whatnot has made liquor sales in Ontario quite safe. I mean, there's going to be incidents. There will be incidents everywhere you go. In this particular case, I mean, we're talking about like a 2-hour hockey game, 2-hour sales. I think we're more exposed with people going out to our parking lot and tailgating, or being in the dressing rooms drinking and whatnot, because that directly falls under the municipality's insurance. Whereas if you're doing it in a licensed setting, where the hockey club in this case is going to be the licensee and they're going to provide the insurance, that actually removes liability from the municipality in that regard. So I would be in favor of a motion as long as we can protect the municipality's interests and make sure everything is done by the book, because like I said, the rules are there for a reason, and they are strict in the interior liquor laws. As long as we can make sure that the municipality follows these laws and that the Morrisburg, the Lions hockey team is going to be held responsible in keeping up with those laws and abiding by them, I think I'd be supportive of it, but only if that's the case.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor. Yeah, we have an alcohol policy that they'll definitely have to follow, which is more stringent than some of the laws. So for sure, whatever they would have to execute would be definitely covering us from that point of view. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. And through you, Mayor Broad, and I see David's joined us. I mean, there was no intent, in my part, there was no intent to start laying down the conditions and the rules tonight. This was just simply, do we want to reconsider this for David and other staff to come back with the proper documentation, with the proper report to allow us to, do a proper decision whether we want to support in full, a liquor license at the arenas. Because I admittedly, there's things, David, that I don't, and I want to hear staff's opinion on it as well. But to me, the first step is, are we going to reconsider? If we're going to reconsider, that's great, and then we get into fruitful discussions about the logistics around the liquor license and the use of.
Councillor Ward?
I would agree with Deputy Mayor St. Pierre's point. I would like just the information to come back to it. I don't think I'm ready to make a decision right here tonight, just because I unfortunately don't have the history. And I'd also like to know, I understand the hockey club is going to be paying for the insurance, but I also want to see if there's ramifications on our insurance rider. I'm certain we probably have to pay something. So anyways, I would agree with Deputy Mayor St. Pierre if it could come back with information from staff. That would be appreciated.
Okay, fair enough. So the direction would be for staff to come back. We could have meet with the juniors as well again, and we can have further discussions leading up to our January 30th meeting, and let's come back with more detailed information so we can make a fair decision at that point. Okay. So moving on to item number 11, notice of motion. So any notice of motions for future meeting discussions? Seeing none, I have a ratification bylaw, that bylaw 2023-03 being a law to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read and passed, and open council, signed and sealed. I have a motioner. Councillor Vino, seconder. Councillor Smith, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And for the most exciting number 13, adjournment. I have a motion that council now be adjourned to meet at the call of the chair. Motioner? Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. So as we bring the meeting to close, I would like to conclude the meeting of our team for January the 9th. I'd like to say thanks to the whole South Dundas team and those working in Parks and Recreation, those in Fire Service, Wastewater, Treasury, Building, Communication, Bylaw, and Customer Service. I'd also like to thank Director Jeff Hyman, who was here tonight and shared with us our winter maintenance. I'd like to thank him and his team for all the hours they put in over their Christmas time period and all their hard work to make sure our roads is as safe as they could be during a significant winter event. I'd also like to give a shout out to David Jansen and Emily Palmer and Parks and Rec for a facilities tour that the team had on Saturday. We were able to visit many of our facilities and see where we are at for standards and possible upgrades and budgeting and et cetera, and uses of facilities. So thank you, David, for that tour. On behalf of the council team, I'd like to thank the staff, everybody that's prepared tonight's agenda, and those who all presented. And to those in attendance, thank you very much, and folks that invested their time with us, either on live or at a future viewing of this recording until our next meeting, which is on Monday, January 30th. we will reconvene. So I'd like to say thanks to all those connected to South Dundas. We're proud to be representing you. Good night.